watching News 9. I'm Karthik Malhotra and we've got an exciting next 1 hour lined up for you. This is Monday morning and all the big stories from India and around the world relating to your money, the business and economy coming up. You're watching Morning Brief at 9. This is Morning Brief at 9. First up, let's bring you all the domestic headlines that we're tracking for you this morning. India has edged Japan past the $4 trillion mark. India is now the fourth largest economy in the world at a GDP of $4 trillion. India and Russia are in talks for advanced BRAHMOS missiles. This comes after the impressive performance of the BRAHMOS during Operation Sindoor. And India and Maldives are all set to review the implementation of economic maritime security partnerships starting today. In other news coming in this morning, there's a report that suggests that India is an existential threat for Pakistan. But Pakistan is not India's number one enemy. The real threat for India is the competition with China. Meanwhile, there are geopolitical tensions and tariffs which are likely to mar the semiconductor design and their related employment in GCCs here in India. Now, there's a slight dip in India's forex reserves as per the RBI's latest bulletin. A $4.9 billion dip is registered in India's dollar reserves, which now stand at $685.7 billion. And good news for formal employees in India. The Finance Ministry has approved an 8.25% Provident Fund interest rate. There's a 3 times increase in India's renewable energy capacity in the last 1 decade. India's renewable capacity now stands at 232 gigawatts. COVID-19 is rearing its ugly head again in India. There's a high alert issued in Uttarakhand while Delhi issues an advisory. And in a big development that came over the weekend, India has now officially surpassed Japan to become the fourth largest economy in the world. This was confirmed by Niti Aayog CEO BVR Subramaniam while addressing the media after the 10th Governing Council meeting of the Niti Aayog. Now, Subramaniam cited IMF data stating, "We are the fourth largest economy as I speak. We are a $4 trillion economy." That puts India just behind the United States, China and Germany. The Niti Aayog chief attributed this rise to favorable economic conditions and ongoing policy reforms. He also set the bar higher, projecting that if India sticks to its current growth trajectory, it could become the third largest economy within the next 3 years. Now, India's economic surge has been powered by key sectors like manufacturing, services and technology, along with sustained foreign investments as well as government-led industrial strategies. Now, for months, India and Japan had been neck and neck in nominal GDP, but new data now confirms that India has pulled ahead. And in a major boost to India's defense capabilities, reports suggest that India has begun talks with Russia to jointly manufacture an advanced version of the BRAHMOS missile system. The move comes in the wake of the successful deployment of BRAHMOS during Operation Sindoor, India's precision airstrikes on terror camps in Pakistan and POK following the April 22nd Pahalgam attack that claimed 26 lives. Russia is said to have extended full technical support for the new project. Preliminary discussions are already underway with plans to produce the next-gen BRAHMOS at the newly inaugurated 300 crore rupee facility in Lucknow. The current version of BRAHMOS, developed by the Indo-Russian joint venture BRAHMOS Aerospace, has a range of 400 kilometers and flies at a blistering Mach 2.8. The missile's versatility lies in its ability to launch from land, sea or air with pinpoint accuracy and a fire and forget mechanism. Reports also indicate that India relied heavily on Russian origin systems during Op Sindoor. Not just BRAHMOS, but also the formidable S-400 air defense system. In fact, much of India's military hardware today is of Russian origin. The Indian Air Force continues to rely on the Sukhoi Su-30 Mk-1, the MiG-29, as well as a few MiG-21 Bison jets supported by Russian-made Mi-17 and Mi-26 helicopters. Additionally, India is gearing up to produce over 6 lakh AK-203 assault rifles in a joint venture in Amethi. Now, India and the Maldives are set to deepen their strategic ties as External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will meet his Maldivian counterpart Abdullah Khalil today. Khalil, who arrived in India Sunday evening for a 3-day visit, will lead the Maldives at the second high-level core group meeting to review the progress of the India-Maldives Comprehensive Economic and Maritime Security Partnership. The MES said in a statement that Maldives is India's key maritime neighbor and an important partner in India's Neighborhood First policy and Vision Mahasagar, that is mutual and holistic advancement for security and growth across regions. The visit is aimed at strengthening the comprehensive economic and maritime security partnership between the two countries. Now, this partnership, formalized last October by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Maldivian President Mohamed Mizu, aims to strengthen economic cooperation and maritime security in the strategically vital Indian Ocean region. The visit comes amid intensified high-level political exchanges between the two countries, signifying both sides' commitment to maintaining a close and productive relationship. Now, Foreign Minister Khalil, accompanied by a high-level delegation, will hold bilateral talks with Minister Jaishankar during the visit. This is Khalil's third trip to India this year, emphasizing the Maldives' focus on engagement with India despite some recent diplomatic tensions. Now, remember, relations between India and the Maldives faced a strain following the November 2023 election of President Mizu, known for his pro-China stance. Shortly after taking office, Mizu called for the withdrawal of Indian military personnel from the Maldives. In a recent comprehensive assessment, the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, or DIA, has shed light on India's strategic perceptions, concluding that New Delhi views China as its primary adversary. Now, Pakistan, despite recent military clashes triggered by India's strikes on terrorist facilities, is seen as an ancillary security problem to be managed. The perspective detailed by DIA Director Lieutenant General Jeffrey Cruz in his worldwide threat assessment to the U.S. House Armed Services Subcommittee on Intelligence highlighted the region's complex geopolitical scene, according to some reports. Now, conversely, the Pakistan now perceives India as an existential threat, leading it to persistently develop tactical nuclear weapons to counterattack India's conventional military superiority. Now, according to reports, the DIA also warned that tensions between India and China along the line of actual control are capable of escalating quickly, presenting a constant flashpoint. The DIA further reported that details of Pakistan's ongoing nuclear arsenal modernization, noting it almost certainly procedures WMD applicable goods from foreign suppliers and intermediaries, predominantly from China. Now, these materials are often transshipped through hubs like Hong Kong, Singapore, Turkey and the UAE. Now, looking ahead, the DIA projects that India's defense priorities will probably focus on demonstrating global leadership, countering China and enhancing New Delhi's military power. Now, to counter the burgeoning Chinese influence, India is actively boosting its bilateral defense partnerships in the Indian Ocean region through joint exercises, training, arms, sales and information sharing. while India and China reached a disengagement agreement on certain LAC friction points last October, the core border dispute remains unresolved. Now, to counter Chinese influence and boost its global leadership role, India is giving priority to advancing its bilateral defense partnerships in the Indian Ocean region through exercises, training, arms sales and information sharing. Now, the DIA also anticipates India will continue to prioritize its Make in India initiative to strengthen its domestic defense industry, reduce supply chain vulnerabilities and modernize its armed forces. India's Semiconductor Design Global Capability Centers, or GCCs, have seen a 15% decline in job openings for 24-25, according to a recent report. The slowdown is largely attributed to the ongoing geopolitical uncertainties and disruptions in global supply chains. The talent solutions provider, the Careneet, revealed that job openings in these centers peaked in May 2024 at 3,760 before gradually declining to just over 3,000 by early 2025. This marks a nearly 15% year-on-year decrease in active roles across India's top 50 semiconductor design GCCs. Despite this dip, demand remains strong for niche skills in areas like very large-scale integration, embedded systems, and RF and analog design. Mid-sized GCCs in particular have shown greater agility in hiring during this period. The report also highlights that the intellectual property design subsector, which focuses on developing specialized chip components and reusable design blocks, continues to see high demand with a healthy number of open positions. The Reserve Bank of India data showed that India's total foreign exchange reserves dropped to $685.7 billion as of 16th May 2025. This drop comes after the forex reserves hit a 7-month high in the first week of May 2025. India's total forex reserve witnessed a $4.9 billion fall when compared to the data released for the week ended 9th May 2025. The total forex exchange reserves were at $690.6 billion earlier, according to the previous RBI data release. The central bank data also highlighted that India's foreign currency asset reserves witnessed a $280 million jump to $581.65 billion as per the latest release, compared to the previous $581.37 billion reserves. The RBI's foreign exchange reserves are stated in US dollars, and the foreign currency assets include the effect of appreciation or depreciation of non-US units like the pound, euro and yen held in foreign exchange reserves. Now, according to an earlier report, the nation's forex reserves had hit an all-time high level of $704.89 billion in September 2024. Now, RBI at times uses its forex reserves to keep the volatility in the Indian rupee in check. Any intervention from the central bank changes the foreign currency held as reserves. Now, as of 25th May 2025, the Indian rupee stood at 85.17 rupees against every US dollar. India's gold reserves with the RBI were at $81.2 billion, a nearly 6% drop of $5.12 billion from their previous level of $86.33 billion in May 2025. Now remember, the central bank of any nation increases or reduces its gold reserves depending on many factors, including economic uncertainty and geopolitical tensions. Now earlier, May data showed us a rise in India's gold reserves due to the looming threats of Donald Trump's tariffs and the conflict between India and Pakistan. And there's good news if you're a salaried employee. The government has approved an interest rate of 8.25% on employees' provident fund deposits for the financial year FY 24-25. Now, this decision will benefit over 70 million EPF subscribers across India. The Labour Ministry has directed the EPFO to start crediting this interest to subscriber accounts after the Finance Ministry gave its nod. The 8.25% rate remains unchanged from from last year and continues to offer one of the highest and most stable returns among fixed income options, making EPF a long-term key savings tool. The interest earned is tax-free up to a certain limit. The EPFO's Central Board of Trustees held proposed retaining the rate in February at its 237th meeting, and now with full government approval as it's official now. And there seems to be a major reform brewing, and this comes by way of the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, or DGCA, which has given its nod to changing the educational requirements for becoming a commercial pilot in India by proposing to allow Class 12 pass-outs from arts and commerce streams to also pursue a career in aviation. The regulator has sent its recommendations to the Union Aviation Ministry, which, after finalizing the amendment, will send the same to the Law Ministry. Now, once approved, any Class 12 passed student, after clearing medical and other tests, can pursue a commercial pilot license. Now, this rule change is expected to open the skies to thousands of aspiring pilots, and the DGCA is already pushing flying schools to upgrade facilities and share transparent data online to improve training standards. However, senior pilots warn that while training may become more accessible, securing a job, though, remains tough and costly. They urge families to factor in the high fees of long waiting periods before aspiring students pursue their pilot dreams. And now on to COVID. India is seeing a slow rise in COVID-19 cases in various states such as Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, as well as Delhi, which has caused health authorities to release advisories requesting public vigilance. Now, the latest cause for alarm comes from West Bengal, which reported 4 new cases on the 25th of May. A 31-year-old woman and a 12-year-old child, both from the same family, tested positive for the virus. According to hospital sources, the woman and the child did not require hospitalization and are currently stable and recovering at home under the observation of the health district authorities. The Union Health Ministry states that there are at present 257 active COVID-19 cases in the country, most of which are mild and can be managed at home. The spike, however, is not a cause for alarm just as yet and has put health authorities on their toes, particularly since sporadic cases are being reported in various regions. Kerala has the most active cases at 95, followed by Tamil Nadu at 66 and Maharashtra at 56. The other states reporting low yet significant case numbers include Karnataka at 13, Puducherry at 10, Gujarat at 7, as well as the national capital Delhi at 5. Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra and Delhi, which has caused health authorities to release advisories requesting public vigilance. The Union Health Ministry suggested basic precautions, particularly in public or populated spaces. Citizens have been instructed to use masks in populated areas, practice normal hand hygiene, and don't travel if feeling unwell. Now, although the increase in cases has not caused panic, authorities remain vigilant to ensure that the spread is contained. Time for a short break, but coming up on the other side, a mood check on the Lal Street as markets have opened just a few minutes ago. We will be decoding that with Avinash Gorakshakar, who joins us after this short break. You're watching Morning Brief at 9.
News never lies.
But on the twisting highways of headlines, every turn brings a new story.
So buckle up for Pune Highway.
Because the story is going to twist at every turn.
Dead body kabhi jhoot nahi bolti.
You will need News9 to stay with the truth.
Watch News9.
English news as it should be.
And don't miss our film Pune Highway. In theaters
23rd May.
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, Grab your favorite snack because News9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment. It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News9's pick of the week, don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
Welcome back. You're watching News9. Let's bring you all the market action. Before we come to Dalal Street, which has opened in the green just a few minutes ago, let's try and understand what else is happening in the world. Remember, the US markets were under pressure on Friday, and this came after there were new announcements from Donald Trump on tariffs on iPhones and other smartphones, as well as a 50% tariff on EU, which has since been deferred. Remember, US markets are closed today, but the impact of that seems to be, at least the impact on the Indian markets this morning seems to be quite positive, and Indian stock markets, after registering a handsome close on Friday, up almost 1%, are seeing healthy gains in trade today as well. Nifty 50 is already up more than 0.6% and has crossed the 25,000 levels. The psychological level of 25,000 has been reached by Nifty 50 today. Meanwhile, Sensex also up almost 0.6%, holding strong at about 82,800 odd levels. Volatility in the Indian stock markets is a little higher today, but still before that 18 figure, down at about 17.83. So not too much fear seems to be stemming from what is happening in the world and around. Let's look at the Asian markets also and try and make sense of whether India is the only beneficiary of this pause which has now been announced on EU or not. And well, it seems to be the case because Hang Seng is down about more than 1% in trade today. Remember, Hang Seng is Hong Kong Stock Exchange. It opens about 2.5 hours before India. So it's the case with the Shanghai Composite, which is down about 0.3%. Better news coming in from South Korea as the Kospi is up about 1.3%. That's not the case with Taiwan's TAIEX. Remember, semiconductors, Apple manufacturing, all of that could be weighing in quite significantly on Taiwan, and the Taiwan Stock Exchange, the TAIEX, is down about 0.25%, but Japan seems to be a little healthier today, up about 0.4%. Now back to Indian markets. Let's look at the Nifty 50 heat map and try and see which are the sectors which are in action today. Well, it seems to be more or less green all along. The energy stocks are doing well, particularly today. ONGC is up about almost 1%. The news from the IT pack is also coming in positive this morning, mostly green on the heat map, barring perhaps one Zomato called Eternal now, which is down about 2.4%. All other stocks on the Nifty 50 seem to be in healthy territory. So no fear really. We saw the India Volatility Index is also low today. No fear emerging from the markets, and most sectors looking quite positive in trade. We have a very special guest joining us this Monday morning, Avinash Gorakshakar, Head of Research at Profit Mart Securities, who's with us on this broadcast this morning. Avinash, good morning. What do you make of the mood on Dalal Street this morning? It seems that markets are in a fairly jubilant mode, and the Friday hangover continues on to Monday as well.
Yeah, good morning, Karthik. I think markets are definitely, doing well. And I think the key reason being is that globally, I think the extension of the, deadline for Europe by Trump has been viewed quite positively. As far as the Indian markets are concerned, I think one good part is that monsoons have arrived a little bit early. And I think markets always rejoice when monsoons start on the right note. So I think, this year, hopefully we should have a good rural demand. That's what the market is indicating. And most importantly, Q4 numbers, which are now almost over, and now we are at the end of the earnings season, have clearly indicated that the broader market has seen many companies putting up very good numbers in terms of top line, in terms of profitability, in terms of margins. The management commentary also of these companies is equally encouraging. So I think it continues to be a stock pickers market, and I feel that despite the fact that the index may show a little bit of volatility, I think the broader market offers a lot of opportunity for investors who want to take a call for the next, say, 6 to 12 months. So I think broadly, I think the economy is expected to do well. Hopefully, the rate cuts which have been announced by RBI, the benefit of that could be, seen in the April to June quarter. So definitely, as long as liquidity flows come in the market, Karthik, I think we are quite positive and structurally, positive on the sector like housing, capital goods, automotive, or for that reason, cement. Which are key sectors which I feel on the ground demand continues to be quite, strong. So net, I think it's a buy on decline kind of market.
Okay, buy on decline. That's a sentiment we've been in for a very long time, Avinash. But I also want to pick on to what you said. It's a stock pickers market. So if somebody was to make a bet on certain handpicked stocks, which ones would those be?
No, I think from the broader market, we continue to be positive on sectors like consumption, where we like Varun Beverages. The stock has been hammered down, but if you see the quarter one number, that is January to March, which is the first quarter for them since it's a December year, sales are up by almost 20% plus. The bottom line is up by about 25%. Last year, they did a top line of almost 20,000 crores and a bottom line of 2,600 crores. See, they are the largest franchisee partners for PepsiCo in the country. And despite the fact that Reliance has now come in with Campa, I would say that, the cola market is going to grow quite rapidly. So here you could possibly look at a fair value of anything around 575 to 600 if you've got a 12 to 15 month kind of time frame. And last week, Transrail, Limited, which largely caters for the railway segment, produced very strong numbers, very strong top line growth, very good profitability growth. So my sense is even this stock deserves attention from the investors who want to take a 12 to 15 month kind of call. Very good numbers, very strong order book. And of course, you cannot ignore, players like Ultratech or for that reason, even L&T, because the commentary which has come out post the performance is definitely very encouraging. So I think, a mix of large cap and small cap to start with in this market where the risk reward is definitely in the favor of investors.
Okay, a mix of small caps and large caps, and interesting, good monsoon expected, good heat also expected, and the beverages is what Avinash Gurushankar is recommending could be an area to look a little deeper into. I also want to draw your attention now to the macro economy news that came by way of the RBI on Friday, Avinash, and that came by way of this handsome dividend which the RBI has announced, 2.71 lakh crore rupees. Now, what is this likely to do for investors, for stock markets? I understand on the fiscal side, obviously, the revenue for the government shores up, but is this going to impact investors directly as well?
No, I think, broadly, this dividend is going to be like a bumper for the government in reducing its fiscal deficit. And most of this money, Karthik, is going to be used for the government social programs. It eases pressure on the fiscal deficit. And I think to a large extent, this is definitely an indirect positive for the markets. It may not improve the numbers for financial companies, but definitely, I think government spending, which is going to pick up, in the April to June quarter and July to September quarter, will be boosted because of this money they get from RBI. And mind you, last September and last June, we had elections, so almost all the government spending had stopped. So to that extent, it could trigger a lot of indirect buying for companies, which are dependent on government projects, on government capital expenditure. So net, it's a big positive. The markets would obviously get a hint of this maybe in the June quarter or some, clearly in the September quarter, when obviously this money starts getting distributed on several, government projects.
All right. And we're also expecting end of this week, there's going to be some data coming on India's manufacturing, whether that has grown and by how much. What do you expect, the last month as far as manufacturing, the PMI goes? Do you think India has been able to shore up, at least if there are any other high frequency indicators that you are tracking, what do you make of India's manufacturing story? And the larger question being, how is that likely to get impacted if and when tariffs come and play havoc?
No, see, first of all, the answer to your second question, I think tariffs are now going to be settled amicably. I think, Mr. Donald Trump has started making further noises on the tariff side. But I think if you talk about India, I think we have already announced that there would be zero tariffs on goods, which are imported from the US. So clearly, I think India has clearly indicated that they are open for a flexible and a kind of a very give and take kind of tariff policy. So I think this should happen in the next couple of months. And once that happens, I think, sectors like auto, IT, metals, which are largely export oriented kind of sectors would definitely, be comfortably placed. Domestic sectors are doing pretty well. So my sense is that, you asked about the kind of manufacturing mood in the Indian markets. See, I think clearly the April to June quarter and the July to September quarter is going to see a lot of private capex because most of the companies are now operating at 80 to 90% utilizations. So private capex is going to build up, and as I told you earlier, government capex is also going to see much bigger numbers, at least in the second quarter of the financial year, that is FY26. So net, I think numbers should be reasonably good, much better than the previous comparable data. But I think we'll have to wait and watch to get a better review later.
Okay, and back to zero tariffs, which India has said it may impose on all US products. Now, what does this really mean, Avinash, from the larger sense that you get of India's net exports and India's current account deficit, and the net exports then actually leading to perhaps, the GDP numbers coming out a little under pressure? Is that likely to play out?
See, I think as far as US is concerned, Karthik, we are not entirely dependent on the US. So basically, for us, it is not like China or Canada, which have got a very large exposure on the US markets. My sense is that there could be little bit intermediate pressure on the Indian export front. But I think clearly, what Donald Trump wants and what the Indian government wants to offer is that there should be a conducive atmosphere for Indian companies exporting to the US. So I think my sense is that it may happen that maybe for a couple of quarters, there could be some pressure on the GDP growth or maybe on the individual, companies which export to the US markets. But longer term, I think all this gets neutralized because it's unlikely that US is going to manufacture anything in the near term. It's going to be very difficult for Mr. Donald Trump's vision to materialize that make everything in America. So, you know what happened for the iPhone, product. Tim Cook, who is the CEO, has clearly indicated that iPhones will be manufactured in India, and despite the 25% duty, it still makes economic sense to make iPhones in India because they are a lot cheaper to make it here.
Exactly. But on that iPhone part, do you think there is a possibility now that US and China are closer to inking a deal than US and India are? Do you think there's a possibility that even Tim Cook, under political pressure or economic pressure, could throttle back on India investments and continue to focus more on China, which has been historically the case for Apple?
See, I think my guess is it's very difficult to now say exactly what will happen. But Karthik, my sense is that India offers a very conducive market. And I think clearly all of us agree that, the company will not like to keep its eggs in just one basket. They would also like to diversify. So to that extent, maybe we may not get the entire chunk of iPhone production here, but at least a reasonable chunk would come in because it makes a lot of economic sense to have a base in India. The labor, the skill sets, and the kind of economics which are there in India are definitely quite remunerative. So at least some part of their requirements would be made in India. I think, of course, China is a competitor, but that doesn't mean that India would be completely ignored.
And coming back to the mood check this morning, I'm seeing energy stocks particularly are doing well today, Avinash. In fact, Reliance is up almost 0.8%. ONGC is up about 1%. Now, there was this report from Morgan Stanley last week suggesting that if oil prices continue to hover in the $65 barrel range, then that is likely to give a solid, tailwinds to India's markets, and they could reach the all-time high as early as next year. Now, oil seems to be under control right now. Energy stocks are looking good. Is this one of your calls to make as far as investors are concerned today?
Yeah, I think, if you look at the energy stocks, my sense is that energy companies, specifically the downstream companies, that is oil marketing companies, should do pretty well because they are the larger beneficiaries of the softer crude prices. And I think you're right. If crude prices remain soft, then the markets would obviously take this as a big positive because markets don't like rising crude prices, and a lower crude price also helps in keeping inflation under check. So I think both things considered, I think if global crude prices continue to remain in $60 to $65 a barrel, it's definitely good for India because they're still net importers of crude. And obviously, this is definitely going to be a big positive for the market sentiment. I think finally it will be numbers, Karthik, which will decide what kind of impact the lower crude prices have done on the profitability numbers. But there are many sectors like paints, carbon black, lubricants, a host of sectors which depend on crude derivatives. So this is definitely going to add to the earnings tailwind in the coming few quarters.
All right, earnings tailwinds likely to come in. I also now want to draw your attention to one more sector which is looking really interesting today, and that seems to be the auto sector. So if we can pull up the chart for the auto sector, we are seeing Mahindra & Mahindra is up about 2.7% today. We've also got Tata Motors, which is up more than 2%, and we've got Bajaj Auto, which is up almost 2%. So where is this really coming from? What is going on in the auto sector today, Avinash?
No, Karthik, I think last week, Ashok Leyland declared their numbers, very strong numbers, very strong management commentary. They gave a 1:1 bonus. And I think they were very positive on the overall growth of the commercial vehicle market in the coming few quarters. As far as Mahindra and Mahindra is concerned, I think they are a large player in the tractor market. The management there has been very positive of a double-digit growth for the industry, and they outperforming the industry growth. Most importantly, M&M has cleverly managed its product portfolio very smartly. I think their electric vehicle is now going to be, introduced and launched in the market. They got a rousing welcome, response for their electric vehicle, which they launched. So my sense is that now the passenger car segment, especially the utility vehicle segment, will continue to do well. We are quite positive on M&M, Tata Motors, and Ashok Leyland. In the two-wheeler pack, we feel Hero Motor could give a big beneficiary. And I think this is really backed by the fact that this time, if rural demand picks up in a big way, then I think Hero Motor will definitely benefit because a large part of its demand comes from the rural markets. But overall, I think lower interest rates and a good rural demand would be very strong tailwinds for the sector in the coming 6 to 12 months.
All right, next 6 to 12 months are going to be vital for India's auto sector. Avinash Karakshakar, thank you so much for your time. We leave it at that for now. Thank you so much for joining us here on News9. So, as Avinash was saying, the next 6 to 12 months are going to be interesting for India's auto sector, but the Indian auto industry may, for some reason, be facing some anxiety after both US and EU have put pressure on India for steep tariff cuts on passenger vehicles. Well, that's not something that we are seeing in the mood of the market today, but the fact that over the next 6 to 12 months, in case those tariffs were to kick in from the present 100% to as high as 160% to as low as about 10%, then things for India's auto sector could change. Now, would the playing field get tilted away from India's manufacturers, especially Tata Motors and Mahindra? And we've seen their stocks are doing well today if import duties were to come down drastically. Well, News9's Amit Ranjan has done a deep dive into that particular aspect. He has spoken to some auto sector experts, including EY's Som Kapoor, as well as former Siam President Dilip Chinoy, in order to explore this developing scenario. Let's take a look at that report.
11 rounds of free trade agreement negotiations between India and the EU concluded on the 16th of May. EU has sought significant tariff reductions in sectors that include automobiles, medical devices, wines, spirits, meat and poultry. They have also asked for stronger intellectual property protections. As far as the US goes, the first phase of an India-US trade deal is expected to be finalized by July this year. US was India's primary trading partner for the fourth year running in 2024-25, with trade figures touching $132 billion. India's trade surplus with the US stood at $41 billion. President Trump's fixation on iPhone manufacturing notwithstanding, it is the Indian auto sector that may be looking at these negotiations more carefully. India's import duties on European cars can be as high as 100%, while those from US range from 100 to 160% depending on engine capacity.
I mean, let me start with the US tariffs. We potentially don't do any export of vehicles over there right now, right? We only export some parts, and that's also selected to drive transmission, suspension, etc. Depending on what happens with our, bilateral discussion with them, that should get sorted out, and I think it should be in favor. Like a lot of people, I'm also looking at that with the glass half full, because they've placed these tariffs for across countries, right? Not just on India. And we probably have a fair amount of opportunity there as well, especially on the two-wheeler side, etc. If that gets into possibility and option for those countries. So having said that, you have to look at all of these with an opportunity lens as well. I think it's time we take them on, yeah. We are the big boys. We are the third, fourth largest manufacturer of passenger vehicles in the world. We have the capability to do this now, and we need to fight the big boys game also, if so be it. But I think the government will try and help out by restricting volumes, and the companies will take it in their stride and try and win it from there.
What's the worry? If import duties on American and European cars are cut down, the Indian auto industry will lose its competitive advantage. The most expensive cars manufactured by either Tata Motors or Mahindra do not exceed 30 lakh rupees. It remains to be seen if foreign players would find the low and medium cost segments in India lucrative enough for them even after duty cuts.
My personal views are two on this. Point number one, you're taking companies like Mahindra and Tata's, you're taking them very shallow. I think these companies have a lot more depth in them. The competitiveness that they've already built, the competitiveness that they're capable of building is phenomenal, right? There may be a little bit of a short-term impact to them, which I think the government will try and curtail by saying, the import volumes will be restricted to a certain number. I don't want to comment on the number because, it's still not out in the open. But I think the government will try and curtail that problem with the number. And I think if you actually look at the products that are coming out of the Mahindra and the Tata stable, the designing that is coming out of there, the kind of acceptability it is already starting to generate, I think, it's time that we can not just fight this, but we can win it.
As long as Mahindra and Tatas can appeal to the Indian consumer, can bring out refreshed products, can become, they both are now world-class companies, can build world-class products and offer customers value for money, they can compete effectively in India.
Both Tata Motors and Mahindra have made big forays into the Indian EV market. How would that be affected with the onslaught of European and American cars? Would the exports of this category products get some fillip with the reciprocal duty cuts in European and American markets, especially in the two-wheeler EV segment?
On the electric vehicle segment also, I'm not too sure that they will be as price competitive as already as some of our Indian manufacturers are or can be. And so I foresee that they could probably get some good, better-based technology products from there. But other than that, I think the volume segment, I don't foresee too much of an impact.
I think the EV space is a challenge because a lot of the technologies we are still dependent on that, and there I think because it's also very nascent in India, it could be a challenge in some segments of the EV space. But Mahindra is in the SUV EV, in the smaller car EV, they're not into large cars, etc. And the large cars, which are big SUVs or big, luxury products, nobody makes in India, neither Tatas or Mahindras. Tata JLR is a option, and if the UK-India free trade agreement works out in a particular way, it could benefit Tata JLR in that segment as far as the industry is concerned, and then they could effectively compete with any tariff reductions across in the EU or the US on that segment of vehicles.
And then there is the Tesla factor. There are reports of Tesla considering a model priced around 21 lakh rupees, a potential base price for the Model 3. With import duty slashed, would this worry the Indian manufacturers in the segment?
The Tesla product is not the middle or entry level product. It's a luxury kind of a product. The market share there, and they'll be competing with other companies like, let's say, Mercedes or BMW, or even I think I saw a Lamborghini EV or a Porsche EV on the roads in India. So they'll be competing with that segment. Neither Mahindras or Tatas, other than JLR, makes that kind of a product. Now, again, like I said, if it is specifically for that, then there's a different market segment that we are talking about. The second thing is that there is talk about Tesla making a lower cost car, an entry level car. We have not heard anything, and it's been toing and froing there whether they're going to do it or not going to do it.
European Union, including the UK, constitutes 32% of India's total exports of automobile parts and components. In financial year 2024, auto parts exports to Europe stood at $6.9 billion. To the US, the figure was $2.2 billion. This is a sector that may benefit most from these negotiations.
I do foresee a little bit of our opportunity in this also, because it won't be a single way transaction. I think I do see an opportunity for us. I do see India improving exports going forward. There is no two ways about it. Point number two, I think luckily, standards for safety are going to get global. So if we can pass the standard and they can pass the standard, nobody has any questioning on them.
All right, that exclusive report there from Amit Ranjan. Well, before we slip into a short break, let's look at the global headlines that we're tracking for you this Monday morning. US President Donald Trump defends decision to block foreign student visas at Harvard, says the move protects American education priorities. Meanwhile, Donald Trump also says US should build tanks, not t-shirts. Focuses on big things like chips and defense, not clothing. Donald Trump has also paused the EU tariffs after a very nice call with EU chief Ursula von der Leyen. Sets July 9th as the new deadline for EU tariffs. Trump condemns Russian strike on Ukraine that killed at least 12 people on Sunday. Says he's not happy with Russian President Putin. And after an outage on X, owner Elon Musk pledges to work 24/7 again, while stronger focus on operations across his firms. ASEAN leaders meet in Malaysia amid rising concern over US trade moves. The bloc expected to call for unity and stable global commerce. Saudi oil giant Aramco eyes asset sale, cuts dividends amid oil price slump and global expansion push. Meanwhile, UK begins rail renationalisation as first private operator returns to state control under Labour plan. Japan inflation reaches highest level in over 2 years. Bank of Japan faces mounting pressure over rate policy. We track all these stories for you on the other side of the break. You are watching Morning Brief at 9.
He plainly tried to internationalize the Kashmir issue.
We know as a matter of fact that it was Pakistan that ran to America.
West seems to disregard anything that doesn't affect it directly.
Donald Trump is trying to tell the world that I am the savior.
He has no business of speaking about Kashmir. There's a Russian reality, there's an American reality, but I suppose there is also an Indian reality.
Pakistan will test you time and again on this particular issue.
We have actually struck harder, wider and deeper.
The escalation happened, so be it.
India must not make the same mistake again.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Brief at 9. Let's bring you all the global stories that we're tracking for you this Monday morning. US President Donald Trump says his administration wants to cut the number of foreign students at Harvard and is demanding the university to hand over their names. Now, speaking from Morristown Airport, Trump questioned why the US is funding a school that he claims receives no backing from foreign governments. This follows Trump's administration's move to revoke Harvard's ability to enroll foreign students, a decision that a federal judge has since temporarily blocked. Harvard has slammed the move as a violation of the US Constitution. Let's listen in to what Donald Trump had to say in his defense.
Well, look, part of the problem with Harvard is that there are about 31%, almost 31% of foreigners coming to Harvard. We give them billions of dollars, which is ridiculous. We do grants, which we're probably not going to be doing much grants anymore to Harvard. But they're 31%, but they refuse to tell us who the people are. We want to know who the people. Now, a lot of the foreign students we wouldn't have a problem with. I'm not going to have a problem with foreign students, but it shouldn't be 31%. It's too much because we have Americans that want to go there and to other places, and they can't go there because you have 31% foreign. Now, no foreign government contributes money to Harvard. We do. So why are they doing so many? Number one. Number two, We want a list of those foreign students, and we'll find out whether or not they're okay.
All right, and from Trump's Harvard plans to making America great again, well, Trump said on Sunday that he was not interested in moving textile manufacturing back to America, clarifying that his administration was instead focused on big things like computer chips and tanks. Listen in.
Looking to make sneakers and T-shirts, and we want to make military equipment. We want to make big things. We want to do the AI thing with the computers and the many elements. But the textile, you know, I'm not looking to make T-shirts, to be honest. I'm not looking to make socks. We can do that very well at other locations. We are looking to do chips and computers and lots of other things. And tanks and chips, meaning ships, yeah.
All right, Trump's big plans for big things, including chips, not the ones that you eat, but the ones that go for AI. Well, Donald Trump also said on Sunday that he would pause his threatened 50% tariff on the European Union until July 9th after what he calls a very nice call with EU chief Ursula von der Leyen. Now, Brussels and Washington have been negotiating in a bid to avert an all-out transatlantic trade war and had agreed to suspend tariff action on both sides until July.
She just called me, as you know, and she asked for an extension on the June 1st date. And she said she wants to get down to serious negotiation because I've told you specifically, I told anybody that would listen, they have to do that. And we had a very nice call, and I agreed to move it. I believe June 9th would be, July 9th would be the date. That was the date she requested. Could we move it from June 1st to July 9th? And I agreed to do that. And that she said we will rapidly get together and see if we can work something out.
And finally, in a rare rebuke to Russian President Vladimir Putin, US President Donald Trump condemned Moscow's latest and deadliest air assault on Ukraine, saying he's not happy with Putin. The overnight barrage, Russia's largest aerial attack on the war ever since the war started, saw 367 drones and missiles strike cities across Ukraine, including capital Kyiv, leaving at least 12 dead and dozens injured. Trump, who recently spoke with Putin for over 2 hours, has been pushing for a ceasefire in the 3-year conflict.
Not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
Mr. President, what do you want to do about that?
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. We'll see what we're going to do. What am I going to tell you? You're the fake news, aren't you? You're totally fake. All right, any other questions? I don't like what Putin is doing, not even a little bit. He's killing people. And something happened to this guy, and I don't like it. That's all I have to say.
And staying with the US billionaire, Elon Musk says he's going 24/7 at X, Tesla and SpaceX following a major X outage that hit users worldwide. Now, posting from a factory floor, Musk said he'll sleep in server rooms if needed to fix what he called major operational gaps exposed by the incident. A fire at a data center in Oregon caused the disruption, affecting tens of thousands of X users. Musk's work for the Trump administration has also led to anti-Tesla protests by those who disagree with his politics. He also told Tesla investors last month he would begin limiting his time at Doge in May as the electric car company faces a slump in sales. And finally, a colorful celebration that's sure to put a smile on your face. Hundreds of clowns took to the streets of Lima on Sunday to mark the Peruvian Clown Day. The vibrant procession wound its way through downtown Lima, bringing joy to all who watched. We will leave you with those visuals from this unforgettable display of laughter and color.
camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because News9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment. It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News9's pick of the week, don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
He plainly tried to internationalize the Kashmir issue.
We know as a matter of fact that it was Pakistan that ran to America